Hi guys, Redneck Computer Geek here with the Sears Dragster. Now one thing I want to touch on right now is everything in this unit I have paid for myself. There's a little bit of controversy because of the fact that Duramax has sponsored my primary channel, Redneck Computer Geek. On this channel, this unit here, I paid for. Everything on this machine is out of my pocket. Another thing, those of you that were eagle-eyed saw on a picture that I posted up that I had duct tape on the front of the machine. So here's the reason why we had duct tape on the front of the machine. We've upgraded our lights at the drag strip, and we ended up running into an issue, and I'll demonstrate it here. So when you come up in order to stage at a drag strip and you're dealing with 3-stage lighting, you've got your first stage, your set, and then you've got your red light. So what happened is, we came up, we hit our first stage light right there, and then we continued up to where we would hit the second light in order to set off the system so that you can start the race tree. The problem is, both of those beams have to be triggered, and it is open underneath my engine. So the first beam, as I rolled through it, shot underneath the engine, and you could not set off the staging lights. So what we had to do was we had to duct tape down across there in order to be able to have something for the lighting system to hit, and then this is your red light. So once that light goes down and it hits green, that light turns off and the timer starts. But if before that turns green, you hit that light in front of you, like so, you set off the red light. So that was our first learning experience. In order to counteract that, what we are going to do is we're going to take this piece of aluminum foil and we're going to put it right inside the grill so that that way there is no way that the light can't hit it, and probably attach it to the underside of the engine shroud or something like that. That way we won't run into that problem ever again. Now, let's post up the first launch and we'll talk about that a little bit.
Upper arm strength, there you go.
Dan Henry, lining up in lane number 1. Neil Greenleaf and the rat rod over there in lane number 2.
Rat rod. Woo woo!
That is a wheel setup.
Yes, that is a wheelbarrow for a seat. We like it.
So the first launch went good. I was in second gear. I brought it up to about 4,000 RPMs on my sensor here that you guys have seen in the videos. We did the launch. We took off. We ended up floating the whole system on 26-inch rear tires at probably about the 130-foot mark. It's a 150-foot track, so if you watch, you'll see that Inman, the guy racing next to me, all of a sudden starts to catch up on me. And that was where I dropped out and I didn't gain any more speed, so I lost. If we had been on a 120-foot track, I would have won. Now, on the second launch, which you'll see, I thought, well, put it in a higher gear. So we slammed it in the third gear and we launched with third gear. Now, why am I not launching in second gear and then going into third? The problem is my clutching system on this is not set up yet. I had a friend of mine, Cooper, who tried to go and work on the clutching setup, and he built a little display idea in here. I'll post up a quick video of that.
Kill himself, and 95% of the time I try killing myself while doing it.
Alright guys, so this is what happens when you end up with somebody who knows more than you. You tell them you have an entire garage of tools, and to fix it since they know more. So Cooper here runs a really amazing machine that runs one of these 633As like this, and he now has set this up so that when this comes down, there's an adjustable pinch point for it to hit. And right now he's got my stuff on fire. There we go. So there's an adjustable pinch point now, and he's got a slide in it to be able to bring it down through. So that hopefully I can manage to be like him on his rig and do second to third gear shifts on the drag strip. Right, Cooper?
Yep.
And, well, we tried it. And I may or may not now have part or partial reverse gear in the unit. So that's the reason why it is every time I came up to the line, I did the whole wheelchair thing in order to get up to the line. Because the problem is with this being a square gear transmission, I had to set it into gear, roll it to the line so that I knew I was in gear and I was locked in. This transmission is very janky, and so I wanted to be sure, no ifs, ands, or buts, I was in gear. So then we went out to Unity Raceway, and we did another test launch. I'll post that now. Now, that launch was on these supposedly 23-inch tires, but they have shrunk with age, so they're actually only about 22 inches tall. And with that, we ran into another weird phenomenon. So I'm going to grab the camera for you and we'll talk about that. So, at the raceway, we ran these tires, but we ran into a weird problem. This thing has never jumped the belt. It never was a problem. But if you see, it's got there, and you can clearly see underneath it's starting to have a wear issue there. So what happened, and I'll bring you guys down here, what happened is once this thing would get all the way to the upper end of second gear, this 5/8 thick belt would float like that. Like it would make like a rainbow effect over the top of this instead of being straight. And if you watched it, all of a sudden it would float itself right off of this pulley and throw. And luckily, every time it threw, it didn't just totally obliterate and rip the belt to shreds, so I was able to put it back on and rerun it and whatever. But every single time with these tires on it, which are smaller, see, those are the ones that I ran at the fair. So we've got these tires here that we ran. Every single time we would get up to the very top end of second gear, it would float it right off this pulley and throw it. So I'm going to see if I can find a pulley like this that has a bigger edge to it. If not, what I might do is I might just see if I can find like a gigantor of a washer to put on the outside of this particular pulley. You know, something in order to suffice. The other thing is my friend Dan went on a tirade because I told him that the 26s were too big, but the 24s that I have are too wide and would grip too much. So he went on a giant tire kick and found me these at my friend Lee's. And these are 25 10-12s that have been worn down very evenly, but have almost no lug left on them. And we're going to take these grip and throw lugs out of here so that it is nothing but just these and these center large ones here. We're going to take all these extras out so that we should be able to get it up on that center with it overinflated, so that we'll have the best of both worlds. We'll have the thinness of this tire, but almost the height of this tire, which should put us a little bit lower on the top speed, but hopefully we will cut the junk of throwing this. Now, I'm sure right now in the comments, I'm already getting told that this 90 degree is bad juju. And you are right. This 90 degree is very bad juju. What it really should be is this pulley should be right about in here, and this belt should be coming into about here, should be just barely going through and then over. That's the way this double clutch really should be, is this right here should be about in this area. The other problem with this that I'm running into also is that Tractor Supply only carries these in a 90 and a 94. And this is a 94. I tried special ordering a 93, which, by the way, this is pure garbage. This Max Power Premium V-Belt, whatever. That was the biggest waste of $30. Let me get into the light here. We never even got to do a test hit. It roasted every bit. Let me come down here. It roasted every bit of that premium Kevlar right off of there. So that's no go. So what I have on there right now is a True Blue off of Amazon. And I have found True Blue to be okay. They're not quite the Husky belt, but they're better than nothing. So what I'm going to probably do is switch back on this, which is the Husky belt that they sell through Tractor Supply, which unfortunately I don't seem to be able to find anybody that sells these rebrands, because Husky doesn't actually make these. They're actually made by a company called Pix, and Pix actually no longer sells directly on Amazon. There is another company that sells this particular style, which is D&D belts on Amazon. But the problem is yet again, they make a 90, a 92, and a 94. And if I fix that clutch so that it's going like this, like it ought to be, then I'm gonna bet I probably drop all the way down into a 90-inch belt. I just don't know that I have time to fix it before everything happens. So while we're into that, the fix that I'm gonna try is taking this rod here and remaking this rod. I'm not gonna touch this rod, but I'm gonna remake a version of this rod that is about 2 inches longer, which would bring this pulley center 2 inches out, and that should get me reclocked to about right in here. And I have a 92-inch belt on order, so we'll see whether that works. The other problem that I've noticed is that once this thing is up and running, okay, so I'm going to set you guys down, and I'll see if I can do it without moving the camera around. Can you see that? So the bushing is gone, and then to top it off, this pivot piece right here, Once this gets up and running and under RPM, the whole thing, as you can see, it bends that arm. So I need to come from here and run a solid piece down to there and tack it in. The other thing that I discovered was the wheelbarrow seat has a flaw, but part of it is me. The rear of the machine is right about here, and the pivot point for the seat is here. So when I go to sit down, hear that? So I clearanced this in order to fit those tires. Except for when I clearanced it, I wasn't sitting in it. So when I sat in it, the whole thing dropped by like half an inch. And therefore, I burnt right in there with my tire on both sides. You can't see it because it's currently covered in mud from when we went to Unity. Let's see if we can see on this side. Yeah, right there. See that? So, when I clearanced it, I did not take into account that when my 200 pounds sat back here, the whole thing was going to drop. And that dropped it enough that it actually hit the tire on my launches while I was running the really big Wanda tires. By the way, these Wandas suck. This Solid Tread Series Wanda, the Maximus, are worth it. These Wandas, they're horrible. Don't ever go near them. So that's that. A lot of people ask me why I did this, and I did it so that A, my foot wouldn't drop off and hit this. The other reason I did this is because I have really screwed up that ankle really bad. And so for me to clutch, I have to actually move my whole foot. And what this does, and I'll post a video that you can see me doing it in. But what this does is it means that my heel sits on that nice stainless steel and it slides. So, unlike a lot of the other surfaces that you normally have there that grip, this slides, and I literally can just move my entire foot in order to run the clutch without having to go like this, which my ankle doesn't do very well. So that's why it is I have the stainless steel there, was to compensate for my own foot being screwed up. A lot of people have asked about the push button. That was simply for the kids, to give it Halo angry eyes. I do think that up in underneath here, maybe, I might put like a little aluminum piece and then have some red strip glowing down through so that this turns into like a glowing mouth. Haven't quite decided on that one yet. I might end up doing it down in this one because this underside edge here I can get to, and that would illuminate the whole thing. I don't know. What do you think? Should I do it in the top one or the second one? Because in the bottom would look kind of dumb. Or maybe I need to do all three. I don't know. We're going to be doing Under the Lights in a month and a half. We're racing at night. So I'd like to have this thing all outfitted so that it glows when I'm on the track, just because the kids will love it. And speaking of other things, this thing wheelies to the point that I broke one rim already.
Well, I got a trophy, and my dad broke everything.
And I broke this one at the Unity Raceway. And I got doing some research, and I looked into these rims in this style, And let me come around here. I apologize. So I got looking into this, and this particular style, because the bearing surfaces are both only mounted in one side of the rim construction and not one bearing in one construction and one bearing in the other, these are actually only rated for about 150 pounds. So I have 400-pound rated wheels for the front that are on order. And I also have some 13-inch X-Tracks that came off of my ice racer. So 13s would put me right about here in height. And the 8s that I have ordered would put me right about here in height. And should be able to take the impact. So we need to fix that. This thing weighs a ton. I cut like 180 pounds off of it when I was building it. And honestly, what I'm debating doing at this point is cutting, I don't know, I might even porthole like they did in old planes. I might even porthole the whole frame with the plasma cutter, like go right down through it and just cut 1-inch circles. Or maybe I'll take a hole saw and go down through and make 1-inch circles and Swiss cheese the whole frame. I haven't quite decided what to do there. I've debated the same thing here. I have some aluminum expanded mesh, and I was debating potentially cutting this, putting the plate back in on the top of a piece of aluminum mesh, but leaving enough like I did here to have structural rigidity. Underneath here is nothing but a solid 3/8 plate steel. So I think also what I'm going to do to fix this problem is off the back of here. See, there's the steel you can see there. I think off that back piece there, I'm going to weld a piece of 1/8 inch or something coming off of there that scoops into this. And then all of that underneath the pan there, I think I'm going to cut every bit of it out in order to lighten the weight a little bit more. Because if I can get about 50 pounds or so, I think, out of this thing, then I think I will stop having so much traction that I wheelie this thing and I break things. That's kind of my goal there. Well, there we go. That's everything I can think of right now. Oh, the jet. A lot of people said that they could hear that the jet was running different, or the engine sounded like it was running different in my video that I just posted, and it is. But the reason why I haven't talked about it is because it's not right. As with any racer, I didn't take my own advice, and I started monkeying with the jet, and I drilled the jet out to about the size of a 46 with a jeweler's drill bit set. So this thing now will sit and be perfectly happy at about 54 to 5600 RPM. But the problem is we're back to it refuses to idle. So I'm going to pull the idle jet after the next race. Right now I can get it just barely running and idling. So we're going to wait, and we're going to pull it on the next race and drill out the idle jet a little bit bigger. I've got 2 spare at this point, and see if we can't get that working, and then I'll let you guys know exactly what worked out there. Now, legally, in the rules for the group that I race with, I can use a stock race prep carburetor. And they do make a 3-jet bored out carburetor that potentially could work in this. But it's like 65 bucks. So if using a $20 jeweler's kit, I can manage to drill out the idle jet and get this running, you know, I think I'm going to save the 65 bucks to spend on other things. If not, we might end up buying that. The other add-on that I'm debating getting for this, and tell me whether you want to see whether it'll work on this Duramax or not down in the comments, is they make an add-on choke control for a GX390, which is what this is based off of. They make a choke control adapter that goes on a GX390 that we could put into this in order to be able to put an independent choke that's controlled back in here somewhere. Because as it is right now, I have to reach forward and control the choke and everything, which is a little awkward. And if this engine wasn't as close to me as it is, then I probably wouldn't be able to pull it off, because the race rule states that you have to be on the machine when you start it. So we might look into that GX adapter. Yet again, that's pretty pricey. They're like 38 bucks. I'll post a link down below in case anybody's interested. But that's where I'm at right now. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to dump them down in the comments, and we'll see what we can do about it. Otherwise than that, I have a honey-do list of rebuilding a walkway and filling this in, getting rid of this, and hopefully next month getting rid of this ugly thing behind me, along with working on everything else we got coming up over on Redneck Computer Geek. Have a good day, and thank you for watching.